Soundstripe. Soundstripe.
Well, hello there, lovebirds, and welcome to My Spouse is My Best Friend. I'm your host, Nicole.
And I'm Dr. Green.
Yay, Dr. Green is back. As you all can see, he's feeling much better. Thank you all for your prayers. He's better, the family's better, and we are back. And we can't wait to talk to you guys tonight.
Yeah, it was a rough week, but again, thank you for all your calls and prayers. I am back in full force and ready.
Ready to go. So tonight we have a topic that everyone can relate to, and that is communication in a marriage. Did you hear what I said?
Communication in a marriage.
Communication in a marriage.
And I just didn't hear you. I was actively listening to you.
Ooh, two stars for you. All right.
Really?
All right. So 5 stars. I'm sorry. 5 stars for Dr. Jason. So tonight we want to talk about practicing active listening, being honest and vulnerable in your conversation or when you're communicating, and then timing in communication. And then lastly, checking in regularly to making sure that everything's okay. If there's anything that we need to talk about, let's talk about it and not let it fester. Does that sound good to you?
It sounds good to me.
All right, so let's take step 1. So step 1 is practice active listening. So what does that mean to you, husband, when you hear that?
Well, it means, there's 2 types of listening, right? You can have I can hear you. I hear your voice, I hear you talking, I hear your words. Or I can be actively listening to you. And actively listening to you is really get to what you're saying and not just hear the words, but actively hearing what you're saying, engaging with you, responding to you, and letting you know that I am listening and not just hearing the words come out of your mouth.
Or the nagging.
That's when I just hear you.
So some kind of techniques that we suggest when you're communicating with your spouse is eye contact, one of my favorites. Oh, your eyes are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Or handsome, I should say.
And responding to what she's saying so that she knows that I'm listening, knows that I'm actively listening to her. Or
repeating what I hear you say just for clarification.
That's a great way too as well. And you do that sometimes as well.
Yeah, so I'm gonna stop looking because that might turn into a whole nother conversation.
Anyway, girl.
I know. So that's active listening and some techniques that you can use. Now let's talk about being honest and vulnerable in your communications.
Well, being honest and vulnerable, we talked about last time, we're talking about friendships. And active listening and being honest and vulnerable is one of the things that we hit. And the reason why is because we want to create that safe space for our spouses, right? We want for them to be able to come to us as friends and know that they're going to get honest answers, that they can be vulnerable with us, and that we're listening to them so they don't have to go outside of our marriage or go outside to their brother, their sister, or their friends to have those conversations. But they know they can come to you and you're going to listen to them. You're going to be honest in your responses and that they can be vulnerable. They don't have to hide anything. Just like when you go to a doctor, right? You don't go to your doctor and lie to them because they're not going to give you the right prescription if you lied to them. You have to tell them everything, every detail, so that they can give you the right solution, the right prescription so that you can get well. Well, it's the same thing here. You want to be able to let your wife be vulnerable to you and give you everything so you can be honest and open with them and say things out of love when you are responding to them.
Yeah, and I think a good way of getting that mutual understanding, one thing that we use is we ask each other, hey, can you put on your friend hat? Because that means we need to talk about something that's crucial. There's a vulnerable moment. And so sometimes I might not need a husband answer. Sometimes I just need a friend answer. But he knows that that's one of those vulnerable moments that I'm coming to him with something important.
Yeah. And I want to just put emphasis on being honest. Make sure that you're honest in your communication, in your responses, but loving. And the reason why I say love me, because your honest response might be what she wants to hear, right? But you can't be the friend or the best friend that says, just agrees, right?
Don't lie to me and make me feel.
Yeah. But you want to be honest, and I want to be able to do that, and so that's why I put an emphasis on being honest with her, and that goes both ways. Her being honest and vulnerable with me and telling me, and me being honest in my feedback.
Which sometimes hurt, but I digress. So number 3 is timing and tone in communication. So yeah, no neck rolling, eye rolling, snapping, or in the middle of the Super Bowl. So timing and tone is very important in communications.
Yeah, that's very important, especially with the timing piece, because there might be times that you're not ready to talk, right? When we counsel couples, one thing that we talk about is, hey, don't be that, I'm just using her as an example, don't be that nagging wife to where you're following them throughout the room because you want to talk right then and then. Some people need some time. They need some time to process. They need some time to get over themselves. Just the other day, I think it was yesterday, I had a rough time at work. We were in the kitchen talking about something, and I had a horrible day with this customer was just really just being a butthole. And she came to me and wanted to talk about an issue. And I just had to tell her, I said, hey, babe, I had a rough day at work, and I know you want to talk about this right now, but I said, give me a minute. And let's revisit it. Yeah. It's because whatever answer I give you right now is not going to be from my heart. And I told her that straight up, that this wasn't the right time to talk about what she wanted to talk about at that time, because I couldn't give her my all. It wouldn't have been out of love. And I would have been taking what happened earlier at work and brought it into my house and projected it on her. And so I just told her, just give me some time. So that's a perfect example. And she has to be able to respect that, right?
Right. And the response that you gave me is, let's wait until our scheduled time that we were going to talk for, again, our wind down Wednesday or wind down Thursday, whatever your wind down day is. So he didn't just say, let's talk about it later. He gave me the opportunity to say, hey, this is the time and the date and the place that we'll talk about it. So then I could table what I had to say and reserve it for that time that we have scheduled to talk about those uncomfortable situations.
And it's not like I was writing her off, y'all. It was the fact that I didn't want to say anything that I didn't mean. I didn't want to say anything that was out of character. And I didn't want to portray what happened earlier in my day that happened at work on her. That's unfair to her.
Much appreciated.
So that's why I just took a beat and said, hey, this is not the time. Let's go ahead and do it then. The other thing is, the tone. It's not always what you say. And I know y'all have heard this before, so it's not something we're telling you don't already know. But your tone is very important when you're talking to your spouse and giving them responses, because you can say something that might not be hurtful to you, but the way I said it to you, it comes off on a whole different nomenclature.
Yep.
So when you're speaking or when you're communicating with your wife or your spouse, make sure your tone you're checking your tone. And then don't be afraid to check your spouse on her tone. Like, sometimes she comes to me and she just goes off, and I'll be like, hey, babe, I hear what you're saying. It's hard for me to actively listen to you because of the way you're coming
My
at me.
high-pitched voice.
Your high, yeah. She'll go from a 3 to a 10. I'm like, oh, whoa, hey. But sometimes I say, hey, it's your tone. And honestly, when I say that, she's like, oh, I'm not trying to say it like that. This is what I'm trying to say. Now I'm receiving it better. I'm actively listening, and I'm not concentrating on the tone that she's coming at me. So if when you're communicating, make sure that you're checking your tone, and don't be afraid to let your partner know that their tone is coming off-putting to you at that point, and you're not listening because I'm hearing you.
Right.
I'm just hearing your voice. I'm hearing your high-pitched voice at this time, but I can't hear your words or listen to your words because I'm so concentrated on that.
Yeah, and I said I didn't mean it like that. I promise.
And that's Yeah. That's how it really works, y'all.
It is. All right. And so the fourth thing we wanted to talk about is
checking in regularly.
Checking in regularly. So you've heard us always talk about wind down Wednesdays or whatever day that's good for you. And even on a daily beat, even on daily beat that we sit and talk about just different things. How was your day? How was your night? What's going on? Just casual conversation, just to check in to see if you're good. So yesterday, as I was checking in to talk about whatever the issue was, and he turned around and said, hey, I'm stressed about what happened at work today.
It was about the website. It was about the website. Remember we were talking about the website? Yeah.
Now he's remembering.
I'm old, so yeah. I have to get it out while I think about it.
And I'm going to let him get it out because he won't remember in about 30 seconds.
But go ahead.
Anywho, and so I let him get out, what he had to say, even though I was so anxious to get out what I wanted to say. And so at that point, I just tabled it. And so what my check-in is, hey, something's going on with him. And so I spent the rest of my night just catering to him of things that he liked to do, just to kind of get his mind focused on the home, just to make the home life, just getting that work home balance together. And so we did a puzzle yesterday after we ate dinner and just kind of listened to some jazz music and sip some wine just to have a relaxing afternoon, because again, he had a rough day. Even though I had stuff I wanted to talk about, it wasn't the right time. And so it's okay to table it to a later time, a later date. And then again, my spouse is my best friend. He's having a bad day. So let me see what I can do to lift his spirits and bring him back home.
And it worked. I mean, it always does. So I'm glad we have that kind of relationship. And also with checking in regularly, is making sure that they're all right. You know your wife, you know your spouse, you live with them every day. You have to come home to you see their face, you wake up to them and everything else. So you know when their demeanor changes, right? So, when you see that, check in with them. Say, hey, babe, are you all right? Is everything okay? And if they say, well, it might be something. Well, no, I had a bad day today or not. Or do you want to talk about it now or you want to talk about it later? She might tell you now. And that opens the door for you to actively listen to her and her to be open with you because you're creating that space. Or she might just say, well, baby, give me a beat. I need to talk about it later on because I have to digest it or I have to process it before I come. But just letting it, or just checking in with her, letting her know that you notice that something's wrong with her and that you're there and you're open to talk at that moment whenever she's ready to talk or whenever he's ready to talk, is when we say check in regularly. It creates that space. It creates a connection of letting your spouse know that you're there for them.
Yeah. So we want to hear from you. How do you and your spouse, your best friend, communicate? How do you check in regularly? How do you deal with active listening? Or if you have any other tips that you'd like to share with other couples, please drop it in the comments below.
All right. So we just look forward to hearing your responses. I'd like to hear what some of your experience with active listening is. I know, you have some husbands, like during football or whatnot, you're sitting there, you hear your wife, you hear what they're saying, and then she always catches me. Don't ever get caught and you're nodding your head saying, and then she asks you that question.
What'd I say?
What'd I just say? So even when you're not hearing her, and there's times like I'll be upstairs working and she'll come up and she'll start going at it, just because she's the type when she has something to say, she'll start talking. And I'm sitting there working, I'm not in my head, and I realize I'm not in my head and not listening to her. And I have to stop and say, oh, babe, I heard what you said, but I wasn't actively listening. Could you repeat that? And even though I'm in the wrong, I let her know that, say, I heard every word that you said, but I couldn't tell you. It's like reading a book, right? I can read the words in the book, and at the end of that book, I couldn't tell you the main idea. I couldn't tell you where it took place. I couldn't even tell you the dang characters because I wasn't actively reading. Same thing goes here. I have to take a beat and say, hey, I heard what you said, but I couldn't tell you the content of what you just said. And that just also creates a space that she knows that, hey, I didn't actively listen. I'm being intentional of hearing her, and just to let her know that, hey, I made a mistake at that point.
And I forgive you.
So, Please like and subscribe. We hope to see you next week. We want to hear what you have and your take is on active listening, and we will see you next week.
All right.
Thank you. Love y'all.
Bye.